not a children's podcast, which also makes sense because Riot Earp's not a children's comic. So, I always tell everybody, feel free to say what you want. And, we're here to have fun and also to, promote the books and hopefully get eyes on the campaign. I just looked at it. This is the new campaign's doing pretty well. So that's cool. And then I'm going to get it. I'll have this out by Wednesday. I'll edit it. I'm going to try and get it out tomorrow. But because I know you guys only got like a week and a half left or something.
9 days.
9 days. Okay. So yeah, I'll get it out quick. And then, all right. So, Keith and Michael have been on the show before, so happy to have you back. And Michael, thank you for organizing all this, man. That was awesome. Sure. When he hit me up, guys, and he was like, "Hey, I want to come on and do the Riot Earp again," I was like, "Yeah, awesome." And he was like, "I'm going to bring Ron and Darryl," and I was like, "You're going to bring who? Like, what the fuck just happened?" Okay, I'm a big fan of both your guys' work. I've been prepping for the last couple weeks, getting ready, kind of going through some stuff, and I'll get to it more. But I remember when I was a kid, I had, because when I was younger, they sold like X-Men and the big DC and Marvel books in the gas stations and stuff, right, in grocery stores, right. And I would grab random issues. Before I had found out what comic book shops were, and I would just grab like cool covers and stuff. And for the longest time, I had that Parallax glow in the dark cover. And it was just like, and it's like the third issue. It's like the final issue of that arc. Right. So I had no idea what happened before, but I read it a ton and would turn the lights off and look at the cover. And
yeah, that was the issue you took into the bathroom. Close the door behind you.
I take all my issues into the bathroom. I do a lot of my reading in there. It's a nice, quiet, secure, comfy environment. All right, so I'm gonna do a quick intro, and then I'll introduce everybody, and then we're just all gonna talk and become best friends, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be a good time. All right. Buzz babies, we are back for another episode of Blake's Buzz, and this week I've got an insane crew that are working on a new Kickstarter project. You won't believe it. I can't believe it. I've got Keith Champagne, crazy enough to come back. Michael Katz, crazy enough to come back. Also in the house, legendary Green Lantern artist Darryl Banks, and comic book legend. He's written for DC, he's written for Marvel, he's invented characters and brought the cosmos to life, and is just an all around really cool and talented dude by the name of Ron Marz. Ron Marz is on the Blake's Buzz podcast, ladies and gentlemen. This is a high point. I guess I've peaked. This is the best we're gonna do from here. But I mean, hey, I'm cool with it if you all are. I am so excited to talk to all of you and to see how this Kickstarter journey began. Gentlemen, thank you for spending your time with me this evening. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
We're good. We're not as excited as you are, but we're relatively excited.
No one's ever as excited about me. I'm over the top and high energy. I have to remind myself to calm down a couple times. Now we are here to talk about. Well, I want to talk about a few things, but our main discourse tonight is for the new Riot Earp Kickstarter, which is live right now. You got just a few days left. Everybody, when you listen to this, go to Kickstarter, back it, check it out. I loved the last 4 issues. I was a big fan. Michael, like I said, Michael and Keith have been on the show before, talking, and they Michael talked about the book, and the last we left off was after the coup, the bloodless coup, right? And I love the we're gonna replace the monarchy, right? Or we're gonna the royal assassinations and the plots and the twists. Spoiler alert, sorry, but these issues are out, so it's your fault if you haven't read them yet. It's not my problem. Anyways, they were very good. But you're switching up the format a little bit, so we've been getting 2-issue arcs, right? And now we're getting a one shot. What better team could you have? Darryl Banks and Ron Marz are reuniting. All right, the DC, the top dogs of DC are coming back together to do this Kickstarter one shot, and give Ryan a run for his money. And then Michael's also doing a backup story in that. And so like, I know Ron was the editor on the previous issues, but like, how did you get these guys to do this? Because I mean, I love the comic, but I mean, you know, like it'd be like if I had an idea and was like, I go to Jeff Johns and be like, hey, dude, and he's like, no, dude, I'm busy. Like, how did this happen? Like, I'm so interested in how the new issue came to be.
Well, it all started years ago when Ron and I crossed paths on a different comic book project. And when the time came to do Riot Earp, it was my business partner's idea to see if Ron would be interested in being the editor for the project, because he wanted to make sure that it was, you know, a decent project, that our money wasn't, you know, going down the tubes. And then it was his idea to say, hey, while we're at it, maybe Ron could write a story for the series. And I thought, okay, we'll do a special. And then, you know, who better to illustrate it than Darryl Banks himself, you know, who's, you know, famous for his run, you know, with Ron on the Kyle Rayner Green Lantern. Plus, you know, they've done other stuff over the years. And, you know, Ron asked Darryl, and Darryl, you know, gave us the thumbs up, and it's been smooth sailing ever since.
That's so cool. So you got, obviously the chemistry's there. You guys have worked together for a really long time, and Ron has like been the editor on these previous issues. It's always interesting to me, no matter like the level of talent and stuff we're dealing with, but like when someone grabs you to like drop you into a new narrative, right? That's not yours really. Do you guys get nervous doing that, or are you guys are like, you know what, like we've been around the block. We know comics. Like we can, you know, you guys could do My Little Pony. You could do Spot, any, whatever they throw at you, you guys can do. Or is it still kind of like, I don't know, like when it's not your baby, right? When you gotta like when someone hands you a new baby, you know, and there's always that like fear you're going to drop it. And you're like, just don't drop it. Just don't drop it. Like, does that happen when they pass along like the IPs to you guys?
It's not our first rodeo. Not our first. That's the short answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, like Darryl said, we've done this once or twice before. We've done this once or twice before with each other. So so that was the real attraction. You know, the chance to work with Darryl on anything is attractive. But this is a fun property. Mike's great to work with, and you know, I know that no matter what I write, it's going to look great when Darryl's done with it. That's a huge part of my job, is to work with somebody that you know is going to deliver the goods on the page, because then I look good, right?
Yeah.
It's you know, that's essentially half of being a comic book writer, is riding your artist's coattails. So so any job is more attractive when you know who you're going to be working with, and you know that you click with that person.
Yeah, and Darryl, I love your art, man. It's so good. It's so like vibrant and fluid, and like I see it, you know, like when I see great art and it's in motion and it like comes alive even from the static imagery, right? That's one of the hardest parts of like being a comic book artist. Well, I mean, on top of like deadlines and all the other shit you guys deal with, but like you take this static imagery, and in between panels, you have to make it move. You have to make it come to life, right? And a little bit of that's on the reader, but you have to guide the reader through those motions and through that. And you're so talented at that. Like thinking about your guys' like Green Lantern run, and just how it started, and how the craziness of like taking the main Green Lantern and like being like, all right, push him off the deep end and then bring in this new guy, and then also like design him and make him look cool. And you guys you made him look cool. You made him look totally different than any of the other lanterns before, like with the you know, the kind of add-ons to the uniform and stuff. And so I'm really excited to see you bring that energy to Riot Earp, because it's a really cool, funny, sexy spy comic, and it's different than like other spy narratives I've read, right? Because there's like, some of it's like real heavy noir and I love it. And it's like great action, but it's also dark. I've been reading a lot of James Bond comics lately, and I was really surprised like how dark and gritty they are. He's fucking like, there's one where he feeds a dude to a shark in one of the Andy Diggle deals. And he's like, he's like feeding this guy to a shark, and he's like, tell me where to find the guy. And it's just like, holy shit, man, this isn't Daniel Craig. Like, whoa. And so so I like how Riot Earp it has a little bit more like life and buoyancy to it. It's very bright, right? And just kind of funny at times. And like I said, he's a good looking dude. He falls into the bed of good looking women. Sometimes he forgets their names. But hey, like he's also here to save the world though. So that's cool. Like we'll forgive him a little bit. How do you, Darryl, how do you like compose like an action scene without superpowers? Is that trickier for you? Like when there's not like, there's no like, there's no ring animations. There's no like laser blasts or anything. You're just like, we're dealing with like handguns and physical action, like only. Is that, do you have to rethink things, or does that come naturally for you?
It's one of those things where you could have subject matter that can be as fictional as the imagination will lend itself to, but a boring image could be a boring image. You could have a robot and aliens and everything else, but if you don't, set it up properly, it can still be as dull as just, two people drinking coffee in a library. The key is make it feel as interesting as the script is describing it. And it's more like just the whole mechanics of comics could be challenging anyway. It's not really the subject matter. I mean, inherently, it sounds like, it's easier to do superheroic things with superpowers. Not really. I mean, especially when you think about there's so much superhero content out there. I think to be able to, something like Riot Earp, I feel like in some ways it can really separate itself from the pack by being different in many ways. I think the character Ryan Earp, one thing that is different about him is that he's not really an action hero. He's wits. He's out thinking the situations he's in, and I feel like that's going to be kind of refreshing, to kind of really separate itself from other products that are out there. So I think with the stories and the script that I'm working with, I really feel very confident about it.
Very cool. And then Ron, when you were working on the script, did Michael kind of let you do your thing, or was he just like standing over you the whole time, like screaming at you, like guiding you, or did he kind of let you break loose? Like,
no, Mike gave me the skeleton of the kind of story that he wanted to tell, and that's fine. That's what I wanted, because this is his baby. That he knows these characters better than anybody else because they didn't exist before he thought of them. So. So I felt like my job was to, borrow his babies for a while and take them for a ride around the block, and then put them back where I found them in a condition that Mike would be pleased with. So that was really the gig. Mike gave me the skeleton, and I pushed and pulled things here and there. I ignored things. I added things. That's part of my job too. Because I have to tell a story the way I would tell a story, not just try to imitate what Mike does. So I think what we ended up with is a nice blend of the kind of thing that I usually do, but with Mike's sensibilities and his takes on these characters in there as well. Because obviously, it's not like there's 30 years of history to Riot Earp. There's the issues that I've read. There's the issues that I've edited. And that was kind of it. So I wanted to, obviously there was also a factor of making sure that Mike was involved so that everything tracks with what he wants out of the book and where he sees these characters going. Because this is to a great extent a prequel story to explain how Ryan Earp got to where he is at the beginning of issue 1.
Oh, cool. Okay. I dig that. And it's a bigger one shot, right? Is it like 48 pages or it's over 40 or something?
40
pages.
40 pages for Ron and Darryl's story. Then I have an 8-page short story by myself and Fred Bennis. We're the regular team. And then I have a 10-page special Christmas story that I wrote, and the art is being done by Joel Souza, who did the variant cover for issue 2.
Cool. And that's all going to be under one cover.
Yep.
All right. So that's going to be a nice,
including pinups too.
Yeah, that's going to be a nice. This is what I like about crowdfunded projects is we get like, I mean, people that are into crowdfunding, we're used to kind of paying the extra money, dealing with stuff like that. And, but I like that we usually get extra pages too, like extra pages, pinups, cool stuff from like guest artists and stuff like that's kind of what some of the magic from crowdfunding. And I know Keith and Mike have done this before. Like Ron and Darryl, have you guys messed with crowdfunding stuff before? Like, have you ever like done anything like this?
I've never.
What you should ask.
I've never run a crowdfunded book.
Never
but I've worked on them. Look at Darryl brought props. You're like Carrot Top, sort of.
Great resemblance.
You're just not on the roids like he is. So Darryl and I did Harkin's Raiders, which is a hardcover. Perhaps someone might hold up a copy at some point soon. So that came out through Ominous Press and at the behest of Alan Cordry. So I've been involved with Kickstarter projects before, but never really run a campaign before, and I don't think I ever would run a campaign because, man, that's a lot of work. It's enough work to do the actual creative work on this stuff. To run the campaign as well is, that's like wearing too many hats at once for me. But I love the fact that crowdfunding is a viable publishing option. Absolutely a viable publishing option, with everybody doing it from people doing their first comic to people that have been doing comics for 40 years. Yeah. So it's great that it exists as an option, and it also allows you to do exactly the book that you want. You're not jumping through a publisher's hoops or changing your story to adhere to what a publisher might want. Now, doing a crowdfunded book allows you to do the book and then offer it up to a publisher later on if you want, and to say, here it is, take it or leave it, because it's done already.
Yeah, I see that happening a lot lately. Like people will pitch books. Everyone says, or not everyone, but like a lot of people say no. And then you go to crowdfund it. You actually get the book out, gets in people's hands. People start talking about it, and then you can like sometimes like they'll like repitch it, and you actually have like the finished product to share. And I know like Scout, Source Point Press, Second Sight, like their even Image has even picked up a few crowdfunded projects. So yeah, it's like more and more publishers are kind of like, browsing that new market, looking for talent and stuff. So it's a cool way for people to
somebody else has taken the financial risk already, right? Somebody else has raised the money to produce the book. If a publisher comes in at that point, they don't, there's not as much risk attached. So they're a little bit more enticed to take a look at a project. I think, Keith has done a number of his own Kickstarter projects, and it's a really fun way to do your own thing. You grab your friends and you do your book and you get it out there in front of the audience.
Yeah. Speaking of Keith, Keith is doing Daybreak, which just fulfilled not long ago. I feel like I got my second issue of that a few weeks back, and it was excellent. The first 2 issues have been so great. I think we need more. I'm a big fan of cocaine in comics, and I think we need more of that. And I think when we have villains that are like composed of cocaine, even like, I'm just like, man, that brought me back to my like bar bouncing days. I was just like, where was this motherfucker when I was working at 4 a.m. at Brookside? But it really shocked me because the first page of this is you open it up and we're cutting lines on the table, and these super villains are all like chatting and doing lines and trying to figure stuff out, and then it gets crazy, and it just ramps up after that. Like what a a real like comical way to kick off this issue, which is interesting because when we left, we find out that the protagonist has cancer, and there's this big worry, and so yeah, I'm really digging what you're doing with Daybreak, and I love that you're so involved in it too. Like you're doing your inks and letters, and you're writing it, and you've gotten some great people to do variants for you and pinups, and so like, when's campaign 3 dropping, dude? Just like I need it like yesterday. I cannot wait for it anymore.
Well, thank you. First of all, I'm so glad that you liked it. You got the titty cover, right?
I did. I ponied up for the nudie variant. I always think about it. I'm like, man, because I'm a sucker for the for pinups, and they're usually clothed, but I finally was like, I'm gonna do it, and I did it. I'm not mad about it. It's a beautiful cover.
I thought it was some nice tits on that cover. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they look great.
Yeah. I'm not sure when the 3rd campaign is going to launch. I was hoping January.
Oh, really?
But the artist is backed up on a different project until January, and I don't like to launch a book until it's done.
Oh, okay.
So it might be April, maybe the 2nd quarter next year, which is frustrating because I really, I've written all 5, and the 3rd issue is my favorite of the 5 so far.
Oh, really? That's
so
exciting.
that's the one I really want people to read, but it'll get there when it gets there. Just hang in there, I guess.
I like that you want to wait to do it until they're finished, though, because that's one of my worries, and especially like when I do the live show and stuff, which you guys were on the live show, and there's a lot of people who like hit me up and they're like, hey, I got this comic, and they show me like 2 pages and give me like a paragraph synopsis, and I'm like, okay, it sounds cool, but like, part of my deal and my brand is like, if I tell people that they should back a Kickstarter, I'm backing it, like I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And it's hard to do that sometimes when you're shown like a unfinished product, and that like worries me. So I know not everybody can do it. I know like paying for art and everything, I know it gets expensive, but anyways, I really appreciate, people that do this and get everything finished. I'm gonna 1 second. My dog kicked open my door. I'm just gonna shut it real quick. Sorry.
Hey guys, while he's going, what do you want to talk about?
Baltimore just scored, so I don't know if any NFL fans around here.
Oh, he's back. Wait, everyone settle down.
Yeah, we all just did lines.
I'm always late to the party. Yeah, here's a funny story. So I used to like when I was bouncing, I was partying pretty hard.
Like, I feel like you did a bunch of coke right before this podcast too.
I'm too fucking poor, man. I also like when I left the bar life, I lost all those phone numbers and stuff too. But there was this one time this waitress was drunk, and the server, there was all these beautiful women, and like we were all partying late nights, and I learned real quick, right, that like just because like they'll give you attention sometimes, but like it doesn't mean anything's gonna happen. And so I learned real quick like not to share my shit with everybody, and it's expensive, right? And so one night this fucking server, so like I would like help like bust tables and stuff as a bouncer, and they tip me out some extra money for extra cash, and I'm not a lot of money, man. Like some of them like they'd give me like $5 at the end of the night. If I was lucky, 10 or $15 if they were closing and had a great night. And this one waitress like never tipped me out that great, and one night was like crying, and she was like, I give you extra money so that you'll share your cocaine with me, and you never do. And I was like, what is happening? I was like, oh my God. Like, and so anyways, like just a little talk reminded me of those fun times that I used to have at 6 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, anyways, it was I used to have fun, but I like the comic books actually got me to calm down. I was being real stupid, and I was quickly realizing that I could not like I either had to like stop buying comic books, or I had to stop like drinking and smelling stuff all weekend. And I luckily liked comic books more, and so like that stuff kind of got me to calm down. And now I like work from home in an office gig, so I'm just like a boring cokeless podcaster now.
You could only afford one vice at a time.
Yeah, right. but I like this vice. I like, this. It's better. It's better for me, and I like sleeping. I really like, when I get tired, I can just lay down and take a nap, and not just have to like stare at the ceiling and like wonder if sleep will ever come before tomorrow. Like, so every now and then I'll like miss those crazy nights, but most of the time I'm like, I have a pretty good nerd life now. I get to chat with like talented comic book people a few times a week, and I get more review copies of comics than I can read, and I'm very lucky with Blake's buzz and everything. And it's just fun. It's funny how that happens. Like, when you're used to like, I've had those nights where like tables get flipped over and like big scary bar fights, and it's just like, and then the police come and like everything's crazy. And like that used to be like my Monday through Friday, basically. Well, except like it was like Tuesday through Sunday, but because the weekend we worked over the weekend, but when that's your life, and now you're like, no, I just read comic books and buy omnibuses now. Like, it's great. It's awesome. But anyways, I was very surprised at that opening scene. And then also like later in the comic when her friend's there, and she's like, why is there cocaine all over your apartment? And she's like, I'm trying to clean it. It gets everywhere. And I was just, the running like cocaine gag of issue 2 was great. So if issue 3 is better than that, I'm even more stoked, man. Like, cause I really love this series. It's I like the way you're printing it. Really great paper stock. Art is so good. Colors are so good. Like, everything's firing on all those cylinders. And so I'm good things come to those who wait, though. So I will patiently wait for the campaign for issue 3, but I will definitely be there to back it.
Issue 3 really kind of jumps into the dynamic between Doc Matter and Daybreak.
Oh yeah, because that's what happened. Yeah, she kidnaps him at the
relationship and what that's all about. So there's no more cocaine in there, but hopefully there's some other good stuff that you're gonna like.
Sorry, there's no cocaine in issue 3, but we'll try and get you guys back into it. We'll try and get you amped up about it again. No, the art alone is like, I mean, you're telling a great story, but yeah, it's such a good looking comic. And this isn't like, you've been around the block too. Like, you were inking with Jeff Johns in the JSA days and stuff, and doing cool stuff at DC like that. I've had those 3 fucking massive brick JSA omnibuses forever, and they're still in the plastic. Like, I haven't got a chance to read them because I'm always like prepping for shows and stuff. But like, I really like, I've wanted them for so long, and I finally got them, and then I finally get them, and I've had them forever and haven't read them yet. But I just think that's so cool. Like, I mean, that's such an iconic run of comics and a huge run of comics, and like, to be a part of that. And then now with Black Adam and with his co-stars almost coming, it's almost a JSA movie. Like, have you gone to see it yet?
I saw it the other day. Have you guys seen Black Adam? Boy, the JSA sucked in Black Adam.
Oh, bummer.
No explanation of who they are or what they do or why they do it. They're so poorly written and characterized in that movie. And I do feel a little proprietary about the JSA because I worked on them for so long.
Yeah.
I think they really dropped the ball.
See, I love seeing them on the big screen. Even though to me, I'm like, where were these guys in Justice League? When Darkseid attacked. Yeah, it made me wonder that. But otherwise, I thought Hawkman was really cool, and I thought Dr. Fate was really cool. And they're 2 of my all-time favorite characters. Plus, Pierce Brosnan, I'm a huge fan of the actor.
Yeah, you're a nerd, Mike. You're such a nerd.
I should write comics. I'm such a nerd.
It's so crazy. I mean, I feel like it's like this with every big comic book movie. Like, everything's like, people get really passionate about them, and so you kind of have to like walk on eggshells when you talk about them online, because you could like say the wrong thing, like, oh, I thought it was okay, and then everybody gets mad at you, and then like, but DC seems to be having a harder time than Marvel. Even when like DC makes a good movie, like people are still like hypercritical about it because it's not Marvel, because they don't have this like fucking 20-year saga and 40 movies, and like they were later to the game than Marvel was. And I read everything, right? Like I love indie comics. I also love Big Two. I love DC. I love Marvel. I love Spider-Man. I love Batman. I will never. I hold no like allegiance to a sole publisher. I think people that do that are missing out on some really great reads, and it's a kind of a bummer for them. But I feel the same way about the movies too. But I have not seen a lot of chatter about Black Adam, and I haven't had a chance to go see it yet. I want to because I love The Rock. Like he's just like infatuating on screen. Like it's hard not to get excited, when he's acting and performing, and he has like a good like he's a good actor, I think. And so what about you, Ron, Darryl? Have you guys seen it?
Just saw it yesterday.
What'd you think?
I like the fact that the power levels, I felt more comic accurate. I mean, so often, with the Marvel movies anyway, I felt like there's a degree of, in the comic, this character would be stronger than that, etc. But, I really felt that what Marvel would call class 100 strength, where even Hawkman had, still like his superhuman strength, which for some reason, I don't remember Hawkman being that strong, but it was just a different interpretation. But just the effects of the real comic style, almost John Buscema-esque type fight scenes, I was happy with that. The movie was better than I thought. I mean, a lot of modern comic movies I can kind of take or leave, but it was a little bit better than I thought. So I'm almost willing to give it another watch, maybe once it comes on. I'm assuming HBO Max or something like that.
That's what I'm waiting for. Like,
I work in comics and video games. I don't get a chance to go to the movies. This is the sad truth, that there's too much work to do to actually go see the stuff that comes from the work. But Dr. Fate's one of my favorite characters, so I got to drag myself out at some point, if for no other reason than to see that.
Don't worry about it. Just stay home. You're good.
Yeah, HBO Max is where it's at.
Yeah,
I love HBO Max, man. I'm not like scared of like people breathing on me and stuff anymore, but like, there was a time where I used to go to like the midnight showings and spend the $20 and like, go to a theater. I'd go to 7-Eleven and buy a bunch of candy and like put it in my pockets and like sneak in and then buy a drink at the theater. And so like you're looking at a $35 experience, right? For maybe if the movie's really good, okay. If it's not that good, that kind of sucks, but still like $35, that's the price of a Steelbook Blu-ray or special edition or something, right? Mm-hmm. So like once like they started putting shit like right on HBO Max, like I love it. I have a new tablet. I have a new OLED fancy tablet I got for reviewing comics, and you can lay down and lay the tablet like right on your chest, and it looks like a giant screen because you can't see past it, right? And it's like, I mean, it's similar to I like watching movies that way. And what's really cool is you can pause it and get up and go to the bathroom or something, especially because these fucking superhero movies get longer and longer. Like there's like, oh, this one's 3.5 hours, great, cool, but like pause it in the middle, like do an intermission, something like help us out in the theater. I don't know.
But there's one thing that my wife and I, we just got a new big screen TV and all that, and that's fine. But after a while, she works from home just like I do. We got to get out of the house.
Oh, yeah.
We have HBO Max and all that, Netflix, you name it. But at some point, we're like, the walls are closing in. So let's instead of waiting for Netflix or whatever, let's actually go to the theater and get some popcorn, all the old school things and have fun with it, and we did.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. If it's a movie that I really want to see, I got to go to the theater. I mean, I want that experience. These are the same walls I look at all day. So if I can get out to the theater, and have that big screen experience, there's still some sort of magic to, to the lights going down and the the moving image on the giant wall in front of you.
Yeah.
Unless you got to murder somebody because they're talking on their phone next to you.
I remember when I went and saw one of the maybe I think it might have been, I think it was when I saw Force Awakens, I went on Christmas Eve. I tried to get my dad to go. My dad and I used to go see all the big nerd movies together. And he was like tired. We had a big dinner at his sister's house and stuff. And there was like this 11 o'clock showing, and I was like, I want to go see it. And he wouldn't go. So I go by myself, and you know, like, it was kind of busy, and so like a lot of the seats were taken, and this dude sat next to me, and we were talking Star Wars, and we were both excited about it. I mean, 30 minutes into this movie, man, he wasn't like leaning on me or anything, but he was passed out and snoring, and I was just like, God damn it, man. Like, I'm like trying to watch The Force Awakens, and this guy's like, and I was like, you know, I don't know. Like I kind of like, I kept thinking about like nudging him, like, hey man. And he woke up at the end and apologized. He was like, oh dude, was I snoring? I'm sorry, dude. I was like, it's whatever, dude. Merry Christmas. Like, you know, like for Christmas Eve, I'm not trying to like get in a fight at the movie theater at a Star Wars movie or nothing. But that's, but yeah, that's like the only bad experience I've had in a movie. I do like with the superhero movies when like people get really into it and like clap and applaud, like when people come onto the screen and stuff like that. But even then, sometimes you miss a line, right? Everybody's like cheering, or like, you know, when or like when in Endgame, when everybody comes back and everybody cheered for a little too long, and we were like, okay, shut up, like people are talking. I'm excited too, but let's calm down, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, I do miss it, and the audio is like second to none, right? You can have a great TV, but I mean, there's not really home audio that can like compete with like the seat rattling subwoofers and hearing the noises bounce off the walls everywhere. Have you guys done that 4D shit where like shakes you around and blows steam at you?
No, some friends of mine have. I overseas, but I would be interested in checking that out. Yeah.
My buddy took his wife to see, they saw Venom and lost like a whole deal of like a $10 movie popcorn because it bumped her and she like dropped the popcorn everywhere. And so my buddy was like, it was pretty cool. And she's like, no, it wasn't, never again. Fuck that. Da, 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 da. But yeah, I'm kind of interested too. Like it's but I mean that's like a $30 movie ticket. So you gotta really want to check those out. And I guess the seats are real. It's like a roller coaster seat kind of. And so it's like, it's not, you know, there's it's not those plush leather, like electric recliners that, you know, that you sit in now. So I've been interested, but not enough to go. But, so I don't know. Seems cool. Maybe. But anyways, about, you guys have a comic, all of it. That's what we were here to talk about, not random movies and doing cocaine. But thank you for participating in that discussion. But so I'm really, like I mentioned, I'm really stoked for the new Riot Earp. And Ron, I'm really glad you brought up previously how, and you mentioned this on Twitter. I tweeted a splash page of Bernie Wrightson from Batman Aliens, of the crocodile alien behemoth monster splash page, and you retweeted that and said that like the best, you know, the best part of, or you know, the way to make good comics is to work with a great artist and have them make you look better, and you have had great luck in that too, because you've had some awesome comics with really awesome talent, making the pages look good. Darryl's one of the many you've worked with. But I like that, because it wasn't that long ago where like the Twitter discourse, right? And that whole like writer versus artist bullshit that pops up every few months, that like everybody's got like some real shitty hot take that gets passed around too much, and we pay too much attention to like stupid stuff on the internet that we shouldn't. And I really appreciated you saying that, especially someone with like the writing credentials you have behind you, and for like someone like you to come out and say, no, the artists are very important and we work for them and they make us look better. And I think, and I think when pressed, a lot of writers will say that, but it apparently doesn't get said enough, because like
I don't think a lot of writers will say that. I think we've got a lot of writers who are confused about, you know, who's the tail and who's the dog in this. Because frankly, nobody wants to read our scripts. I mean, that's not how this works. Nobody wants to read your script. People are showing up to read a comic. And if there's no art, there's no comic.
Exactly.
You know, Darryl can go make a comic all by himself. He doesn't need me. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Well, you could. I saw that sketch cover you drew.
The Silver
That's
Surfer.
pretty good. Hey, look, man, I got the guy. I did a sketch cover commission at Baltimore Con, and the guy was insistent. I'm like, I don't draw, right? Like, that's not a thing that I do. That's why they pay me to write. He was insistent that I actually come through with this cover. So I said, all right, I'll see what I can come up with. And he said, well, how much do I owe you? And I said, you look at it and tell me what you think it's worth, and we'll call it even. So he came back the next day, and I had drawn a really bad Silver Surfer drawing, which was 90% Silver Surfer's board with, because I can't draw, but I'm not stupid.
Was he peeking over like Kilroy?
Yeah, he was peeking around the edge of the board.
On the side, yeah.
So the dude paid me $65. Nuts. It's crazy. Bought my dinner that night.
I think that same guy, he sold the NFT of it for like $8,000.
He's just retired.
Look, if he can actually still sell NFTs, more power to him.
Oh, that stuff's so I consider myself somewhat intelligent, and I can't, like, when you try and like research stuff like that, and like crypto and NFT and stuff, and like, it's like whatever source you find is incredibly biased one way or another, and it's really hard to research, and it just feels like everybody's just really mad about it, and so then I just quit caring. I feel like that's just, but then you see people, and there's like this 22-year-old college kid sold this thing for $160,000, and then he bought 2 more NFTs and sold those for $1 million, and it's like, fuck me, man. Like, maybe I should have paid attention. Like, I always feel like I'm late to the game, right? Like I started podcasting when there's 8 billion other every citizen on the planet has a podcast. I feel like that you're having to compete with, and luckily not all of them are about comic books, but there are a lot of comic book podcasts, and so I just feel like I'm always like a step behind. Darryl, have you messed with any of that, or are you just like, no, I draw cool pictures and put them in real books, and we just.
I have the whole NFT thing. I thought was maybe it's just a fad or whatever. I remember getting an email from DC saying that they hadn't really made a final decision on it, but then I did a show, I don't remember which one it was, where this guy had me sign some Hal Jordan cards that I guess that are paired with an NFT, and I'm thinking, and it looked official. That's the thing. I'm like, I thought DC hadn't made a final decision on that, so I don't know. It's just one of those things where I don't want to say like, oh, it's good or bad. It's more like if it's a potential revenue stream, then I'd like to know more about it. But especially if my artwork is involved. But I don't know. It's like one of those things where it's hot right now, and then 6 months from now it'll be the answer to a trivia question. Remember NFT? Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Does the Bradford Exchange do any of that?
What's that?
Does the Bradford Exchange do any of that?
NFTs? Not to my knowledge. No, thank goodness.
Okay.
We focus mainly on tangible things, that you can put on your coffee table and enjoy.
See, that's the stuff I like. I was never like 100% purist, but it wasn't until recently when I started being comic book press and people send me PDFs to review and stuff, and then the way I read comics kind of changed, right? And then now with like the subscription services we have, like when I was doing research for you and Ron, like I pay for DC Infinite, and I upgraded to Ultra, and I think it's awesome. And when you have a nice tablet, like I have like a 12.5-inch tablet, so it's about the size of a real comic book page. Reading them on a phone and stuff isn't that great, but to be able to have like tens of thousands of comic books, like anytime you have a Wi-Fi connection or a cell phone connection to download them is really impressive. And to be able to just kind of like dive into the over 50 issues you guys did of Green Lantern, and then like go back and look at Ron's like Silver Surfer run, and not have to buy $100 omnibus or buy a whole bunch of trades, some of which may not be in print anymore, you know. And also I think I think it's helping with piracy too, because we, especially in indie comics, like, you know, piracy gets books canceled. Like it really is, it really has a large impact. Hundreds of thousands of people illegally download comics, and it's easy to do. And you know, I think with these new services, a lot of people will be like, okay, like I can do $10 a month, you know, or something like that. You know, like I could do that instead of like go to these weird websites that might give me a virus and, you know, not so. I really like that. And again, like it was very cool to go back and read some of your Green Lantern issues and see when you guys like first came together, see Kyle Rayner, like, you know, see Kyle come to fruition, right? Like he's a big name now. He's been around for a long time, and he's you got a big character in comics when they die and come back, right? Like that's always, you know, and he's done, you know, he's done that. And so it was really cool to it was crazy to see the refrigerator scene that everybody knows, right? But to kind of reread the refrigerator scene. Oh. But you know, like I knew it was coming, but the way it hits, it's a lot more impactful when you read the previous issues, because like, you know, Kyle and Alex are getting back together, and you know, like he's, you know, she's not letting him in the bedroom yet, and he's like sleeping on the couch, and she's kind of helping him, you know, fall into this role as a hero, and there's a lot of things that were leading up to that, and so like I knew it was coming, but then I was like, the closer I got to it, I was like, I don't really want this to happen. Like, I really like Alex. Wasn't
so like that panel rewritten or redrawn?
It certainly was.
You had to redraw it?
Well, it's more like just I had to make a refrigerator door to cover up the open fridge. And the thing is, you know, classic case of censorship gone bad. You know, it was the Comics Code Authority, I guess, was still in effect back then, and it was thought that, oh, we can't show this, you know, this dead body in the fridge, so you know, we've got to cover it up. And the first thing I thought was, oh, wait a minute, you know, maybe I just have the world's smallest fridge, but you know, there's no way I can get a body in my fridge. So if you cover it up, it'll look like she's in pieces in there. And that's exactly what everybody thought. You know, it was much more horrific. Now, either way, she was dead, but at least you could see she was dead and intact. But you know, it's sort of like what made Jaws so scary. You know, as a kid, you know, we know what a shark looks like, but it's the implication. It's when you involve your imagination, it just can take it to a weird place. You know.
Yeah. Ron, because so like I love Gail Simone and Gail. I mean, you know, Gail started that whole women in refrigerators deal. Now, I understand the critique, but like I mentioned, you know, you guys made Alex a real character and gave her agency and made the audience care about her, which made all that so much more impactful. But there are a lot of other writers that will like offer up the sacrificial lamb. And so like I said, like I kind of understand the critique, but I also think that you guys did it well. At the time, I think it was really intense and it felt very modern DC, because I mean modern DC is a little bit darker than Marvel is. Like when you look at like Tom King's Batman or Scott Snyder's Batman, or you know, even like going back to like Death of Superman in the 90s, you know, like that was dark and momentous, but it also had like a lot of hope and emotion behind it. And this was very like cold, calculated killer, like and it was very, you know, very like if like NCIS or whatever those fucking shows were good, right? And it's, you know, like it had that. Sorry if you guys watch those. I think I don't like them.
How
anyway.
dare you?
but you know, like what do you think about that with the whole like refrigerator thing? You know, if knowing what you know now, would you keep that in the script for Kyle to make him become who he was? Or if like someone offered you like a fucking infinity gem and you could go back and change things, would you, or would you stick to it?
Well, you know, you can't look back and say, oh, I wouldn't do that thing now. You know, I did it. It was, it fulfilled the purpose of why we did it. Certainly. Yeah. And I think it's also it's also a valid criticism. I think both things can be true at the same time, because it is certainly a comic trope, and not just a comic trope, but a trope for TV, film, a lot of different kinds of storytelling, where your hero does not pay the price for your hero's stupidity or inadequacy or anything like that. Certainly, the comparison is to Gwen Stacy, and that's valid as well. But that's not what I was thinking of at the time. At the time, I was really comparing it to this was Kyle's Uncle Ben moment. This was where his him not taking his role and his responsibilities seriously enough got the person that he cared about the most killed. Same thing with Peter Parker. So, and because there was not it was not an Uncle Ben situation. It was his girlfriend, who was frankly a better person than he was and much more responsible than he was, and probably would have been a better Green Lantern than he was at that time. We built the story so that you actually liked her better than him at that point anyway.
Yeah.
And you were supposed to feel bad. You were supposed to be shocked and feel like this is a terrible thing that shouldn't have happened. If you've got a character in your book that you kill off and the audience doesn't care, you haven't done your job properly.
Exactly.
So the fact that the audience was upset was kind of the point.
That was the point.
We wanted you to feel like this was an absolute tragedy, and we also wanted you to feel like this was an example of the bad guy being a bad guy. This was literally life or death stakes, which frankly was not often the case in DC books for years. That the old rap was always that Marvel villains wanted to conquer the world and DC villains rob banks. So we wanted to make we wanted this to have a serious and deadly turn, and obviously we did that. There's a lot that goes along with it. It's a phrase in the lexicon now. It's a meme. For good or ill, it is what it is. So I don't think I would go back and change anything. Maybe do some things slightly differently, but I don't think we would erase it.
Yeah. I don't think you should. Like I said, I thought the emotional appeal paid off. Also, like, just a really dark time for DC, right? Coming back from the death of Superman, and then Hal's whole city is destroyed, and then you guys took Hal and you broke him, and you sent him into a downward spiral of just unhealthy mental mental unhealth, and just he lost it, right? And then all the things that happen with Parallax and stuff, and it's just a really cool time in comics that I want to go back. I've read bits and pieces of the Parallax narrative, but never have I gone to had the opportunity to read, because there's several events tied into that after Death of Superman, and then there's the deal where he destroys the sun, and then he sacrifices himself, Final Night, right? And then there's there's some other stuff going on there, and like I said, now we have these apps, right? And so now, instead of buying all these omnibuses or finding these there's been times where I've spent $90 on a trade paperback because we didn't have these digital services like we do now, and it was you either you're shit out of luck, or you got to buy this, right? Because comics, there was a time when Comixology wasn't a big deal and didn't have all their library, the stuff you can get now. So digital comics have a lot of great stuff going for things like this. You can go back and experience this years and years of influential backstory to DC and Marvel. And I really want to go. I really want to go through the whole Parallax saga and see how break and then defeat everybody, and then kind of find himself again, and then he sacrifices himself to save the world. And so I had no idea any of this happened, right, until I read Jeff Johns' Green Lantern Rebirth. And I remember reading that, and I was so lost. I was like, what the fuck is everybody talking about? This is supposed to be a rebirth. It's supposed to be a new thing for new readers. And I'm reading it, and I'm like, I have no idea what's happening. Like, and then that like led me to kind of go back, very similar to what Marvel did the last few years with like the House of X and Powers of X and Jonathan Hickman X-Men reboot. Like, or, you know, like it is a fresh stepping on point, but it's also like it's going to make you ask questions, and you're going to go back and do research. When you guys are, this is a question for all of you. Like, I guess when you guys are doing stuff like that, these like big influential moments with like, you know, cast of characters that are very important and people know, right? And they come to you and they're like, all right, you're going to do this run, and, you know, like try and make it new reader friendly, but also like remember all these, you know, hundreds and hundreds of issues that came before. Like, I mean, how do you like, how do you go about doing that? Because I like Ron, you and Darryl did that with Green Lantern. It helps a little bit. You got a brand new character, like, okay, so like that helps a little bit. But then, like, you know, looking at like John's JSA run, and like that did a lot of new stuff and brought a lot of these old DC characters into the light again. And you know, just like, how do you like tiptoe around that to where you like tell a new story, but you're still respecting like everything that came before?
Well, that's just the job. That's, you know, that's like asking a batter, you know, how do you hit a curveball? That's the job. Your job as a storyteller is to not throw out the baby with the bathwater. You sort of keep an eye on the stuff that happened in the past, but you don't mire your story so much in what happened in the past that it's incomprehensible to new readers. To me, you find a way to strike that balance and make sure that you are appealing to new readers, because if all you're doing is appealing to old readers, eventually the book gets canceled. So Green Lantern was very much a jumping on point, and we had a great vehicle to do that with, because we had a new character that didn't know anything, was not part of the DCU already, did not know any of the other heroes or really any of the legacy of the Green Lantern mythology. So we had a perfect vehicle to educate not only the main character, but to educate the readers as they went on that journey with him. So, but that's a matter of craft, you know, that's a matter of understanding how you approach this stuff and what elements you need in the story, so that new readers feel like they're in on a ground floor and they're welcomed and they're learning as they go, rather than feeling like which I think happens too often now, is that rather than feeling like the continuity and the backstories that are, rife with the big two universes, are a barrier. You know, you don't want a barrier. You want to welcome him. You want to welcome that.
Okay. And what about like on the art side? So like Keith and Darryl, when you guys are when you're designing characters, and you're modernizing them for the time, right? Like how many Parallax Hal just look cool, like the shoulder piece and everything, like it just like it still looks great. Like I said, man, that glow in the dark cover, I could stare at that all day, and I did as a child. Like I just like it was amazing. And even Kyle has like the kind of extra it's not just a simplistic suit like the rest of the Corps, right? It's not just a suit and a ring, and so like those little instances, like, or the little minor changes, we can call it modernizing it, or however you want to say it. Like, how hard, like, is that it? It's got to be tricky, right? Because I feel like it wasn't just like you didn't just like draw one quick sketch and you were like, oh, there he is, like this is what Hal looks like now, and
That's exactly what.
It's like that's easy peasy, boom, done. Like, and I mean, like, do you guys? Because I know, like, I always see like the in like back matter and stuff of some books, there's like several character designs, and like you go back and forth. And so is it a lot of like were you a lot of working with Ron or like Keith, like with Jeff and DC editorial and stuff, like when you, I mean, what's your like thought process when you're totally like redesigning a character?
Clarity, I think, is one of the things. I was going to start with what we were going for, but really, even beyond that, from a foundational principle, it has to feel a sense of clarity. I think about some of our favorite iconic superheroes, you can even tell who they are from their silhouette. You know, I mean, if you see Batman silhouette, if you see even Superman silhouette, you're thinking, well, it's so simple, but it's also not so much his costume, but it's how he stands, the poses that he'll take. You know,
Mhm.
I think about when we were designing, working on Riot Earp, Ryan. You know, I think my first couple of sketches, I made him too muscular. Wonder why? From years of doing superheroes. And then Michael was like, "Yeah, we want to slim him down. You know, he's not the, you know, he's not going to solve any of his adventures. You know, with his fists, he's going to use his brain. So we need to slim him down." So we went through a few different passes till I felt like it was, you know, it was something that really worked with. And plus, he's appeared before, so it had to feel consistent. Even though this was a prequel, but you know, he couldn't. You know, my initial sketches really hardly look like him. So I'm like, oh, okay, let me fine tune this. But the key is, I think you don't want to have, you want to have something that I think the readers will be able to readily recognize. Even the uniforms in the story that we're doing in Riot Earp, you know, they feel like realistic officer uniforms, but with just some sci-fi tweaks here and there, so that it feels like it's the future, but it's a recognizable future. You know, from the gravity boots that they have, and the insignias are still pretty close to what we have today, but just some real subtle differences.
I'm really excited to go to Marz in this new Riot comic. Like I'm pretty hyped for that. I really like Mike's this spy kind of spy agent universe he's built. And so yeah, like and just to see how you guys are going to handle this prequel, to kind of like relaunch it in a sense, and just with like your guys' name recognition, like I'm hoping Mike gets like Mike's on, because I think more people need to. I said this the last time before you guys were involved with the comic. Like more people need to read Riot Earp. It's a great. It's everything wonderful about comic books, you know, and it's like there's a lot of things it's this world that's not unrecognizable, but it's a little more high tech. Things are a little bit differently, but you know, we're still dealing with the same political clusterfuck that we're dealing with now, basically. You know, like nothing's that different, and it's I never get tired of like when he tries to fight and fumbles up like everything. Like I think in the newer the newer issues, when he's in London, when he like headbutts somebody and he's like, it doesn't work at all, and he's just like, oh, I gotta remember not to do that anymore. And it's just like, yes, as someone I've tried to headbutt somebody before, and I think I'm pretty sure it's a lie. I think like headbutt is like purely cinematic pleasure, because I don't know anybody who can just be like, fuck you, you're done. Like I've tried to do that, and it's like
a pro wrestling thing.
Yeah, in real life it doesn't work that way, man. It's like oh, like for a second you can't see anything, and then like it's like there's not you don't really ever see stars, right? But there's like everything. Like it's funny because when you get knocked out, as you kind of like see these flashes of white, right? And then you kind of come, and then your vision comes back, and that's what happens when you try and headbutt somebody. So and then usually they're not as bad off as you are. Like usually they're like right there squaring off, ready to hit you again. So anyways, I really appreciated the realness of that headbutt scene, Mike, and I'm glad someone's out there telling the truth about this shit. The world needs to know that headbutts don't work.
Yeah, trying to make it as realistic as possible in the futuristic setting, you know. And it's funny because last time we were together, you mentioned, you keep thinking it's a spy book, and I think people see different genres in the book because every issue is like a different genre.
Yeah.
But overall, I consider it it's a story about a putz who gets into trouble, you know, and thinks his way out of it. And every
that needs
issue
to be a genre.
You got
the putz genre.
Yeah, you got
you
got espionage, you got police procedural, you got car chases, you got terrorist attacks. The next stories will have a murder mystery for him to solve.
Oh, cool.
you know. So
How long
I just
would
want to
you-
keep things different.
If you can keep doing this for as long as you want to, like how long you planning on running this?
As long as I can.
Just yeah, right. You have not like a real big like you're not like 9 issues and then we're done. You want to keep pushing it.
Yeah, I thought of this as an ongoing. I actually have 14 stories in 14 scripts written.
Wow.
What?
And and if people keep buying it, I'll keep putting it out.
Cool, man. I'm glad. Like, and I think anthologies are hot right now. I know they're terrible to run. So like, I know that's like really hard to like organize and get everybody on the same page and deadlines.
It's a lot of cats to herd. That's why
Yeah.
anthologies come out late all the time.
Hmm.
So all it takes is one person to be late that the whole thing's late.
Yeah, or recently there was a big Kickstarter travesty for a big campaign that the guy like the money's gone and he like can't print it and everybody like so I mean like lots of crazy shit can happen in anthologies, but I like the idea of you bringing in outside creative teams to tell different parts of the story. Like I said, I dig your writing too, and the art is wonderful, but I don't know, it's a cool idea, like to bring like especially this creative team also, but I mean, people like, even if you brought like Keith in to do some stuff or it's a good idea that these
Well, I
maybe
bring in Keith to do some stuff. Keith and his buddy Alfie.
Alfie?
I do think it's the way to do a Daybreak Riot Earp crossover. I got an idea for that for a while. Actually,
I would pay to see that, and I would also pay for a nude cover with Ryan. Just hang some dong on the
taking
cover.
Daybreak to bed.
Just
you
like,
can try. You don't give it up easy.
Keith, I passed over you a little bit ago, but I did want to know, like when you were doing line work for JSA and stuff, like were you involved in any of like any character changes or like evolution of looks and stuff like that while you were working on that, or did they keep you like
not really?
tight?
When I wrote a few issues, and I changed Stargirl's costume for that arc. I designed her costume for that arc, and that was just a case of doing one sketch and then giving it to the penciler, and then he just took it the rest of the way, and then I inked it. But I design my own characters a lot for my create your own books, which is fun. I just try to make myself laugh. I always put little in jokes in that only I recognize, shit like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, not for DC so much.
As someone who's very capable of doing a lot of different elements of the comic book creation process, like you're a good writer, you're a great artist, your lettering is real solid too. I mean, like what's your favorite? Like where do you feel most comfortable? Like would you rather be writing or do you like to just be in control of everything and you're like the puppeteer behind the scenes, like playing the strings?
I think I think right now lettering is my favorite. It's what I'm enjoying doing the most. Like I wrote a script last week for a book that I'm doing for Aftershock. And I wanted to fucking shoot myself in the head. I love to write. Like, I would write every day for the rest of my life and never do anything else if I could. But it's so hard sometimes. And lettering is just because it's still relatively a new discipline for me. I feel a lot more at play when I do it. I don't feel like it's so much it's work as it is like a new hobby that I'm discovering and I'm figuring out how to do better and better at it. More tricks and tips and techniques. So yeah, right now it's lettering.
I can tell you're having fun with it too, like especially in issue 2 of Daybreak. Like the different bubbles you use and the style, like everybody, different characters have like their own fonts and stuff. And do you do the big sound effects and stuff too?
Yeah.
Nice, man. You're fucking killing it. Like as like I would not have expected to read that and then have the creator behind it be like, actually lettering's kind of a new thing for me. I just started it yesterday and turns out I'm like fucking killing it. Like,
No, I'm just not talented. It's like no, the other aspect of lettering that I like is I think it's really complementary to my writing. I think every writer should try to letter their own book at least once because it really makes you look at your dialogue. And it really makes you sometimes pare down your dialogue to what's more important as opposed to like what's clever or, it just, I think one discipline helps the other and the other, they're very symbiotic.
Yeah.
So Ron, up Illustrator and try to letter a book. I think you'll really enjoy it.
One, I ain't going to do that. And two, I think one of the great learning curves for a writer is to get his first story back lettered and to see what that translation looks like on the page.
Oh, for sure.
That's a learning curve that you can only experience by having it put back in your inbox and going through it. I think that, I hope that teaches a lot of writers lessons about what they shouldn't do. And it's a lot of stuff about, where the balloons can fit, how much fits in a balloon, crossed balloon tails and all sorts of stuff. Because I think a lot of writers don't necessarily picture the art when they're writing the dialogue. But that's part of the job, to go back in and fix that dialogue so that it literally fits and figuratively fits what's in each panel of the artwork. The writer's words are not as important as the art. So don't write 6 balloons in each panel and cover up all the art, because the art's there to tell the story.
Yeah, for sure. I know, when I letter Mike's dialogue, especially he likes to do a lot of cross-cutting dialogue in one panel where characters are talking back and forth to one another. And as a writer, that's something I really avoid. I don't like that because I don't feel like a comic book is a TV show or a play. It's a static image. But I'm learning from Mike's approach too to reevaluate my opinion, and I'm starting to incorporate that a little bit more in my own writing, trying to make it work, not overdoing it, but just adding it as another element to my dialogue, which is, everything's a learning curve.
I think that's interesting about comics is no matter how long you've been in the industry and what kind of accreditations you have behind your name, you're not the only person who's ever mentioned that it's there's always something new to learn. There's always something new to think about. I think a lot of that comes with the magic of comics, right? Whereas it's a teamwork, everybody's doing different things. When you work with different people, they do things differently. Of course, sometimes that ends up being for the better, sometimes for the worse. Not everybody gets along, not everybody vibes great all the time, but it's interesting how the established pros will oftentimes say this was a new learning experience, and it's how do you have anything else to learn? You're a fucking genius. But okay, sure, I'll go with it. So I think that's one of the magics. One of the cool things about comics is it's great comics are always going to keep you on your toes. You always got to think about the layout and how many words to have on a page, and just all the little things that go into making a really great comic book, because it's not all splash pages, right? It's not all a full page Batman nightmare where his parents are laying in Crime Alley with a fucking face hugger on Mrs. Wayne's face and a hole in Mr. Wayne's chest, which like Ron and Bernie did.
Who would come up with such a thing?
Oh my god! I've been wanting to
personality would do that.
Is that true? Did you do that, Ron?
It's so true.
I never read that book. I want to go read that now. That sounds
dude.
great.
You gotta fucking read it. It's a trip. It's so crazy. Oh my god, my buddy. When I told him you guys were gonna do the show, and I was like Ron Marz is gonna be on my show, and he was like Ron Marz, Batman Aliens, and I was like, I didn't know about it. I was like, I was like, wait, there's a Batman. I knew like there was some DC and Dark Horse did some stuff, but I was like, what? And he handed me his copy. He was like, dude, you got to read this. And it's like a half trade. It's like 50 pages. It's like a nice, perfect bound. Like the ones Dark Horse printed were cool, but yeah, there's a nightmare scene, and it's there's in Crime Alley, like they're like laying in Crime Alley, and like it's, you know, Bernie's art is unreal, and just like it's a night, like Batman's having a nightmare, and it is one of the most nightmarish panels, and it's so cool because everybody always complains, like anytime we get like a new Batman comic or a new Batman movie or something, like there's always a shot with the pearls in Crime Alley, and everybody's like, how many fucking times we got to see his dude's parents die? Like everybody knows his parents get shot in Crime Alley, like we know this, we don't need to see it all the time. And so what Ron and Bernie do is like, well, you never saw this, and like, and now you'll never unsee it, because it's just like it's so amazing. I really hope, like, I wish that stuff would get reprinted, because that's another weird deal, like not on Comixology, it's not on the DC app, it's, you know, you sometimes find them in the bins at comic book stores. There was a trade, but the trade's kind of, I've been trying to find it, it's like if you want a good condition of the Batman, Alien, Predator stuff, it's like $70 or upwards if you want like a new mint copy of it. So yeah, like I wish they'd reprint some of this stuff, and I know now things are weird because like now Marvel's got the rights to Aliens and Predator, and everything's just
they won't be reprinting that anytime. That's
just a bummer, like, because yeah, more, like I said, more people really need to like go to your local shops and do some diving and try and find these issues, because they are really great, really, like I've never read anything quite like it. It's not just like an IP mashup for money. Like there's real great storytelling there, and it's Batman against a xenomorph, and it's everything that you think it should be and still surprises you. And then the whole, yeah, the giant monster alien at the end too is just icing on the cake. But yeah, anyway,
hey Keith, it's good. You should read it.
Yeah, you should check it out.
Was it single issues first and then collected?
It was. It was actually, there were 2 short stories in Dark Horse Presents where we couldn't actually tell people that it was a precursor to Batman Aliens, because you know, DC might have frowned on putting Batman in Dark Horse Presents. So there was no indication of what it was exactly, but then those 2 short stories lead into 2 prestige format Batman Aliens. So
okay.
It's
I looked it up while you're talking.
Things about, I don't know,
it's like $60 on Amazon. So I don't want to read that.
I gotta go digging through boxes downstairs now. I must have some copies left.
Yeah, it really did impress me, and it made me really hope, like, because when Marvel got the rights back, they did all those like Alien just the covers, like they put like xenomorphs on a lot of covers, and there's like Guardians of the Galaxy and xenomorphs and like all these like really great, awesome covers from great artists, and like, man, like it just seems so foolish of them not to be like, let's do a Wolverine xenomorph one shot, or a 4-issue miniseries where the xenomorphs invade Krakoa. Like it seems like money ready to be printed, and so I just, like, you know, all the heads at Marvel that listen and watch my show, I hope you guys are listening to this and, you know, see what Ron did here and take that to that. None of them listen to my show, but we can pretend. Yeah, I that just really impressed me, Ron. And I know I've kept you guys a while, and I just got one more thing. I've recently been introduced to CrossGen. Okay. And like, holy shit, I don't know how I missed this. I wasn't paying attention 20 years ago, I guess. And Marvel just they did the CrossGen Tales released last Wednesday. And it had 4 of the premiere issues of CrossGen, and then now we know that they're going to do an omnibus next year of one of the series. Like, Ron, have you been talked to about this? Like everybody keeps telling me to read The Path, and unfortunately, like these things like can't really. It's hard to track down, and these are big runs. Like it's not
Get
just
them on eBay.
Yeah, eBay's your friend.
Yeah.
I bought all these. I collected all the cross-gen stuff when they came out, but it's like all over the place. So recently, when Marvel announced the cross-gen stuff, I'm like, okay, I ordered all the trades.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
they-
I know they asked me to write the intro for the reprint that just came out last week. So there's some, tales told at a school in the intro. And yeah, I actually didn't even know that they were reprinting. They were doing a sigil omnibus.
Yeah.
Until somebody on social media told me. I had no idea. That seems like an odd choice to be the first one out of the gate, because it was not one of the better selling titles. But it was just it's solid space adventure sci-fi. So we'll see. I imagine if the sigil omnibus comes out and sells fairly well, we'll see some more of them. We'll see the rest of the series get some sort of collection, because there's a lot of material sitting there.
Tons. It's crazy when I started looking at it. Like,
and at the very least, I would think that putting that stuff out digitally is free money. That's and that stuff is ironically, CrossGen was like the first place to offer all of its material digitally. They had a comics on the web subscription service, sort of being a little bit ahead of the curve.
wow.
And now none of it's out there. Now none of it's available digitally, because I know when Disney bought CrossGen provided files for all of that stuff, and who knows where it ever went to.
Yeah, I've always thought some of that stuff is weird, because like right now, like Marvel has the new Alien comic out, which I really dig, and I read that on Marvel Unlimited. But the Dark Horse reprinted stuff that they are putting out with omnibuses, Marvel branded omnibuses, and now they're getting there's a new Alien Epic collection. They're about to start releasing them in Epics. None of that is on Marvel Unlimited, and Conan was the same way, but now they lost Conan, so that kind of made sense, like, to why they were kind of hesitant to put that on there. But there's all these like Marvel comics that like are Marvel now, but they like aren't on Unlimited, which is a bummer. But yeah, like, a lot of people, Ron, that like you and like your work will scream from the rooftops that your work at CrossGen is some of the best stuff you've written in your long and fruitful comic book career. And The Path is one of the titles that comes up more than the others. And so like I had that bummer. Like I was like, I heard about this and I'm like, when the fuck is CrossGen? Like Google CrossGen. There's like hundreds and hundreds of comics, like spans over all these years. And then you can't find them anywhere. And it's like, oh shit. And then Marvel releases this like weird collection with, 4 number ones to like, get you thirsty, but then takes the water away. And it's like, maybe we'll give you water again later, but not for a while.
Hunt them down on eBay.
Yeah, I think eBay is probably the easiest choice.
Yeah,
I actually had a complete set of The Path and gave it to somebody a couple months ago. So I was able to put together a complete Path set out of long boxes in the basement. So I've still got a decent chunk of that stuff. But they're out there in quarter bins and on eBay and all that. Who knows? More of that stuff might be out there on eBay as people realize that Marvel's going to reprint this stuff in omnibuses now, and people start dumping their collection because it's not going to be worth anything once the omnibus is out there, because then that's going to be easy to buy.
See, I never know what way that shit's going to go, because when I started buying too many comics when COVID was scary, right? When like people were like dying, it was intense, like the vaccines and stuff weren't out, everybody was scared, and I started getting, I bought too many comics. Like I found retail therapy and I fell into it real hard, and I started collecting omnibuses, and now I have too many. I'm never going to fucking be able to read all these books I bought, especially now, because I get like new stuff to review and prep for interviews and stuff. But there was times when like the omnibuses were like, if you didn't buy it, like when it came out, like they would sell out in like a week or two, and then like people would double price stuff on eBay and like tax it to the max. And so like I never know like if when they announce these new books, if people are gonna like ramp up the price of the trade, you know, like and be like try and like, you know, squeeze the rock, you know, and get all the water out of it, or if it's gonna go the other way and be like, oh, like I can easily like dive into this new world now. So I am gonna have to check that out, because yeah, it's like I said, so many people when talking about your work that cross-gen comes up, and with as many people who knew about cross-gen, there's a lot of people like me who like didn't really know about cross-gen. And then now, you know, at last Wednesday, there's this new like, you know, $9, you know, hefty collection. You know, well, I mean, it's basically a trade, but and it's got it's got 2 of your books in it, which are like were fucking awesome. And like I knew it, like I knew when I read it, and I like got excited, and then I was like, I'm gonna have to wait a long time now, like is what it felt like. I was like, I'm gonna have to like wait to get my fix. But yeah, I didn't because it's such a huge run, like I didn't know how hard it would be to track down like back issues or trades and stuff like that. So I'll have to deep dive into the internets and see what I can scrounge up.
Well, I think it's, well, part of it is the thrill of the hunt, right? You can try to find stuff out there, but you know, for years all that stuff just sat in, you know, 50-cent and dollar bins.
It's crazy.
Maybe it's rolling around again, so that you know, it's like every 20 years the nostalgia kicks in. People want what they had when they were, you know, 12 years old, but now they've got disposable income and they can actually get it again.
Yeah, with an adult child with adult money, right? It's a wonderful thing to be. Well, guys, this was really awesome. Like I as a nerd, like I just appreciate getting to talk to all you guys. I so respect all of you and the work and attitude and great things you bring to the medium. Or I just can't express it enough. As a person with a show and a podcast, it is an honor to have you all on my show. Like I mean that like 110%. Even Mike, I'm just kidding, Mike, I love you. But like it was so crazy when he came to me and was like, hey, I want to like come on. You know, usually I'm the one like, you know, like I'll like buy some of your guys' books, right, and retweet them and be like, "Ooh, I got this collection from Ron and Darryl," and like I'll like, you know, like grease the wheels, and then I'll talk about how great the comic is, and then I'll be like, "Hey, I got this show. You guys maybe want to come on?" And I didn't have to do any of that. Michael just like hit me up. He was like, "Hey, I got this new Kickstarter going. I want to bring all these guys on your show," and I was like, are you serious? Holy shit. Like, yeah. So Michael, like, thank you for thinking of me. Like, I really appreciate it.
Sure.
Blake's Buzz always got a home for Riot Earp, no matter who's working on it. I love the comic. I want to see more of it. I want you to succeed in that. And
Thanks.
so yeah, so real quick, it's because I'm the polite and gracious podcast host that I am. This is where we go around. Anything you guys want to shout out, anything that we didn't talk about, if you guys got something to promote, Patreon, website, newsletter, where do we find you online? Any of that. Let's start with Keith. Where do we find you at, bud?
I guess Instagram, probably at the pretentious Keith Champagne, is my main career hub for the social media. I'm not really promoting anything except for Riot Earp tonight. I want all the focus on Riot Earp right now.
All right. Did you bail on Twitter, or are you just on Instagram more?
I don't do a lot of Twitter anyway.
Okay.
You know, I'm kind of fascinated with it right now, like watching it burn.
It's very interesting, and it's very scary. It's not like scary, but like having to think about moving to another social media platform, as like, because Twitter's my regular space and that's where my main audience is, and so like thinking about having to like build a new audience on a new social media platform, I'm just like, I don't have fucking time for that, man. Like, I got a day job. Like I can't, you know, like. Anyways, regardless, but yeah, so Instagram, we need to follow Keith. His art's awesome. Daybreak's awesome. Even I know he doesn't want to talk about it that much, but it's a great comic, and it's got a cocaine. I almost said a cocaine demon. It's got a cocaine villain in it. All right, and I'm just gonna go around the order. You guys are on my screen. Darryl Banks. Such a great artist, such a great person. So like, it was so cool to get to talk to you tonight. Where's a good place to like find you at and keep track of you?
Twitter, Instagram, sometimes Facebook. I'd say probably mainly Twitter, but yeah, I just Google my name. You'll find me. I'm out there.
Very cool. And Mr. Ron Marz, like I know you're on Twitter sometimes. You haven't left the burning ship yet. Where is that a good place to find you at?
Yeah, Twitter's probably the easiest place. I'm not going anywhere. I was here before that jackass. I'll be here after he leaves. So yeah, Twitter's the main one. I'm on Instagram too, although I don't tend to that too much. My website is justmyname.com. It'll be relaunched probably when you get right down to it, probably next year at this point. There's a redesign going on, and we'll have a bunch more stuff up there. To find me or where I am or what I'm working on, and the next thing coming out, just poke in on Twitter, just at Ron Marz.
I did forget. My buddy wanted me to ask you if you know, and I'm sure you don't, or if you do, you can't say anything because that's the name of the game, right? Where it's like, well, I can't talk about that right now. But a couple people wanted me to see if Turok's ever coming back, and if you had any interest in getting back into that crazy world.
Yeah, I do more Turok. Obviously, that was a thing we did for Dynamite, and I turned it into a Western because basically I wanted to write a Western, and that was how they got me to agree to do it. We had a ball for 5 issues. It's got cowboys and Indians and dinosaurs. What more could you want?
Nothing. It hit all the zones, man.
So we had a bunch of fun, and going in that's an uphill battle sales wise because it's not a property that people are terribly connected to at this point. There's a hardcore audience, but the casual audience isn't even sure what it is, since it's not really the video game that they grew up with. The opportunity to do some more, if it ever comes around, I'd be happy to. Look, I'm a 10-year-old boy like everybody else. I like my dinosaurs.
And I'm sure if people wanted this to happen, we could. Did they do a trade? Did they do a collected edition of that?
I don't know if the trade ever came out. There was one planned, and then it got sort of caught in the pandemic.
Yeah,
and kept getting delayed and delayed. So I don't know if it ever came out or if it was just sort of put on the shelf, no pun intended, for a later date. And maybe it'll come out, maybe it won't. Obviously the pandemic had played havoc with a lot of schedules, and that was one of them.
Well, if the trade does come out, ladies and gentlemen, one of the best ways to try and get something to come back is to, of course, buy it. And trade sales are, single issue sales, yes, are very important, but so are trade sales. If you want something to come back or, get a new breath of fresh air or, breathe new life into a project, buy the trades, pre-order stuff from your comic book shops. Let people know that you want to buy it, put your money where your mouth is. And maybe we get more Westerns with dinosaurs in them. Cause yes, of course it's awesome. We all need more of that. And last but not least, Mr. Michael Katz, the man of the hour, the brains behind the Riot Earp operation, who's just I'm loving these comics, man, and I'm so excited for more. And I'm glad you have a lot of stories up your sleeves, 14 scripts or so written, ready to go. To me, that's very exciting. I hope my audience thinks so as well. Where do we keep track of you at, or any newsletters or anything you want to shout out like that?
Yeah, I'm still on Twitter. My company is Strider Nolan. So my Twitter handle is Strider Nolan 13. My website, stridernolan.com. You can find, information about Riot Earp and other things I'm working on. I do, fiction and nonfiction as well. And any day now, I'm dropping a children's book, Christmas themed book about a Jewish bat that helps Santa.
Nice.
It's called Barry the Christmas Bat. Wow. And I'm probably going to do a quickie kamikaze Kickstarter for a special edition of it once Riot Earp wraps up. So keep an eye out for it.
Very cool, man. Especially right now. Like, definitely need more Jewish voices, Jewish culture out there right now, fucking beating back the asshole hate right now. So that's very cool. That's a nice holiday surprise. Very cool. I'm excited for that. I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for that Kickstarter as well, because Barry the Bat it's got a nice little ring to it. I like it. Guys, this was so cool. Again, all of you are awesome. All of you are super talented. I haven't read a bad comic from any of you. You know, Ron, I'm sorry I haven't read all of the 5,000 issues or whatever you've read in your lifetime, but what I've read has been damn good. This was just like nerd me. This is a special moment, so I'm really excited to put this out. Have the audience check it out. Everybody, please go to Kickstarter, check out Riot Earp. When this drops, it's going to have about a week left. You want to get in on this campaign. You can get the back issues. You can go digital or physical. It's very affordable. There's some cool pinups. Mike works with really great artists and has a lot of cool little bonus goodies and stuff for there. If you want to pony up for it, babies. Love more, hate less, read comics, listen to Blake's Buzz. Thank you, everybody. This was so awesome, and I wish you the best of luck in all your future endeavors.
Thanks.
Thank you, Blake.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Take it easy, guys.
All right. Have a go.
See you guys.